When we think of rebirth, what usually comes to mind? Maybe a soul floating out of a body and entering a new one, a kind of spiritual recycling, right? That's how it's often described in many religions and spiritual traditions. But in Buddhism, it's different. The Buddha offered a profound, almost radical insight. Rebirth doesn't require a soul at all. Instead of imagining a permanent self moving from life to life, he pointed to something more subtle, a process. In Pali, this process is called Punabbhava, again becoming. And it's not about someone being reborn, it's about the continuation of a stream of experience. A current that flows, not a self that travels. Think about it like this. When you light one candle from another, the flame continues, but it's not the same flame. There's no solid thing that jumps over. What links them is condition, and that brings us to one of the most important teachings in Buddhism, Padakasamuppada, dependent origination. It's the idea that nothing exists on its own. Everything arises because of something else. Like a web, touch one part and the whole thing vibrates. If the conditions change, what exists under those conditions also changes or disappears. Rebirth, in this view, is part of that web, not a soul moving, but conditions unfolding. Now, you might be wondering, if there's no soul, then what continues? Buddhism answers with this: Citta Santana, the stream of consciousness. But don't mistake it for a self hiding under a new name. This stream is not a single thing. It's not you sitting inside your head, steering the ship. It's a combination of different forces. Citta, the base awareness, like the canvas of the mind. Cettasika, mental factors, feelings, memory, attention, that paint the moment. Vijnana, the part that recognizes and distinguishes what we're sensing. Together they form what feels like a person. But like a wave in the ocean, it's constantly shifting, rising, falling, changing shape. There's no fixed I in the middle of it all. And that changes how we look at life and death. Because if there's no soul to protect, no ego to carry, then maybe the real question isn't what happens to me after I die, but rather, what am I doing with the stream I'm flowing in right now? Let me ask you something simple but deep. Have you ever said or done something and instantly felt it land inside you like a weight? Maybe it was a harsh word, or maybe it was a moment of unexpected kindness. Either way, something stayed with you, didn't it? In Buddhism, this is where the teaching of karma begins. Now, forget what you've heard in pop culture. Karma isn't some invisible force waiting to punish or reward you. It's not cosmic revenge, and it's definitely not fate. Karma, in its original meaning, simply means intentional action. Every thought, word, or deed we choose, especially when done with intention, leaves an imprint, like a seed planted in the soil of the mind. You might not see the sprout right away. Some seeds take time, others need the right conditions. But the Buddha taught nothing disappears. What we do, especially with intention, stays with us. It shapes us. Let me share a story. There was once a man who lived in a near constant state of frustration. He complained a lot, felt wronged by life. Every day was filled with tension toward others and toward himself. Then one day he came across the teaching of karma, not as a superstition, but as a mirror. He realized something simple yet powerful. He was the one planting the seeds of his own suffering, not life, not other people, him. So he began to shift. He practiced patience, chose kindness, even when it wasn't easy, not out of guilt, but out of clarity. And slowly, that inner field began to change. The complaints faded, peace took root. That's karma in action, not just across lifetimes, but in this very life. When we understand karma, we start to see that we are not victims of circumstance. We are participants in a living process. Each choice is a ripple. Each habit is a seed. We may not control all outcomes, but we can always choose what we plant. And here's the beauty. Karma isn't about being perfect. It's about being aware. It's about living with care, because every moment is fertile ground. So maybe the question isn't, what will karma bring me, but rather, what am I sowing right now? Here's a question that can stop us in our tracks. If there's no soul, who gets reborn? It's a question that has puzzled many who first approach Buddhism. After all, isn't rebirth supposed to be about someone coming back, someone continuing? But the Buddha's teaching turns that idea on its head. He taught that there is no fixed self, no eternal soul traveling from life to life. In Pali, this is called anatta, no self. And it doesn't mean we don't exist. It means we don't exist in the way we often imagine. There's no solid me inside, no little ghost pulling the strings, collecting karma, hopping from one body to the next. Instead, what continues is a process, a stream of karmic energy shaped by our intentions, our habits, and the conditions we create. Think of it like this. You light one candle from another. The flame appears to move, but nothing tangible is transferred. There's continuity, not identity. There's a connection, but not a copy. That's how the Buddha described rebirth. It's not a soul that moves on. It's the momentum of action, karma, that carries forward, igniting the next moment of consciousness when conditions come together. And honestly, this can be hard to wrap our heads around. We like to think of ourselves as consistent, permanent. We want there to be someone who survives. But look closely. Have you ever noticed how much you've changed over the years? Your body, your thoughts, your emotions, your beliefs, none of it stays the same. So what exactly is the you that continues? Buddhism invites us to let go of the idea of a fixed identity and to see life as a stream that's shaped by what we feed into it. And that changes everything. Because if it's not me that's reborn, but my patterns, my intentions, my energy, then every moment matters. Every choice becomes a turning point in the flow. There's no need to fear losing a self because it was never truly there to begin with. Instead, there's a freedom, a lightness, a chance to shape what comes next. So maybe the question isn't, will I live again? Maybe it's something quieter, something deeper. What am I passing on? With this moment, all around the world, through many cultures and faiths, there's a familiar idea that deep inside each of us, there's a soul, something eternal, unchanging, something that carries who we are from one life to the next. In Hinduism, it's called the Atman. In ancient Greek philosophy, Plato called it the immortal soul. In Sikhism, it's the divine spark, the Atma residing within. And in all these traditions, rebirth is seen as the journey of that soul, leaving one body, entering another, growing, purifying, learning. But the Buddha taught something radically different. He said, there is no permanent self, no unchanging soul, no essence traveling through time. Instead, what exists is a process, a flow, a stream of cause and effect, rising and falling, moment by moment. What we call me is just that, a combination of changing parts, conditioned by countless factors. It's not cold, it's not nihilistic, it's actually deeply liberating, because it means we're not stuck. We're not bound by some eternal, unchangeable identity. We're free to grow, to shift, to become. Let me give you an image. Imagine a seed. That seed becomes a tree. The tree produces fruit. And inside that fruit, another seed. There is continuity, yes. The second seed wouldn't exist without the first. But is it the same seed? No. There is connection, but not identity. This is how Buddhism explains rebirth. It's not a soul that passes on. It's the conditions, the habits, the choices, the energy. Like the echo of a sound or the ripple of a wave, there's movement, there's memory, but no fixed thing at the center. And this insight that we are process, not possession, changes everything. It reshapes how we see death, but also how we see life. Because if there's no fixed I to protect, we can soften. We can let go. We can live more fully in the flow. So perhaps instead of asking, what will happen to my soul? We could ask something simpler, something more alive. What kind of seed am I planting right now? What really happens when we die? It's a question as old as humanity itself, and for many of us, it can feel both mysterious and unsettling. We wonder, does something move on? Does someone continue? In Buddhism, the answer is both profound and surprisingly grounded. The Buddha taught that death is not the end, but neither is it a soul moving on like a traveler changing clothes. Instead, what ends is a stream of awareness, and what begins is another. This isn't a leap of faith, it's a process, a natural unfolding based on cause and effect. Let's break it down. At the moment of death, there's something called kuti chitta, the final moment of consciousness. It's the very last flicker of awareness in this life. That moment doesn't vanish into nothing. It doesn't carry a self forward, but it leaves an imprint, a ripple in the stream. And then immediately after comes what's known as patisandhi chitta, the linking consciousness. This is the beginning of a new life, a fresh moment of awareness, conditioned by what came before. But here's the key insight. Nothing travels. There's no soul, no spirit, no permanent I moving from one body to the next. Instead, it's like one wave following another. The ocean doesn't break, it flows. Or like lighting a new candle with an old flame. The flame continues, but it's not the same flame. What continues is karma, the energy of intention, habit, and action. That karmic momentum carries forward, creating the right conditions for a new stream of consciousness to arise. So death, from a Buddhist view, is not a departure. It's a transition, a turning point in the flow of causes and conditions. And honestly, this can be a relief, because we're not stuck in an eternal loop. We're not dragging a heavy soul from one life to the next. We are part of a living, moving process, one that we help shape with every thought, word, and action. So maybe the question isn't, what happens to me when I die? But rather, what am I putting into the stream before it moves on? Have you ever wondered what lies beyond this life? In Buddhism, there's no heaven or hell in the way many of us were taught growing up. No final judgment, no eternal reward or punishment. But there are what we might call realms of existence, not places on a map, not physical destinations, but states of being, experiences shaped by the quality of our actions, our intentions, our karma. Buddhist teachings describe three broad categories of realms, or in Pali, loka. First, there's the realm of desire, or kama loka. This is the one we're most familiar with. It includes everything from the deepest hells to the world of humans to the heavens filled with pleasure and sensual joy. 11 realms in total, each one driven by craving, aversion, and clinging. Here, beings act under the influence of strong emotions, desires, and attachments. Next comes the realm of form, or rupa loka. This is not accessible through ordinary experience. Beings in this realm have transcended base desire. They exist through the power of deep meditative absorption, states of focus and calm developed through advanced concentration, jhana. There are 16 realms in this category, and life here is refined, peaceful, but still impermanent. They are beautiful states, but they too are part of the cycle of rebirth. And beyond that lies the formless realm, or arupa loka. 4 realms where only pure consciousness remains. No body, no physicality, just vast, expansive states of mind, achieved through the deepest levels of meditation. Beings in these realms have gone beyond even the subtlest forms. They dwell in states of infinite space, infinite consciousness, nothingness, and neither perception nor non-perception. Sounds mystical, right? But the Buddha wasn't trying to give us a fantasy map of the cosmos. He was showing us something deeper, that the quality of our mind shapes the quality of our reality. These realms aren't rewards or punishments. They are reflections of how we live. We rise or fall, not because someone judges us, but because our actions create tendencies. Our habits build momentum, and that momentum carries us into the next becoming. So rather than ask, where will I go? Buddhism asks, how am I living? Because that determines the realm we're aligning with right now. And perhaps more importantly, can I live in a way that leads out of all realms into true freedom? There's something quietly powerful about seeing the truth for yourself. In Buddhism, that truth begins with a simple but life-shifting realization. Everything is impermanent, nothing lasts, and there's no fixed self to hold on to. That may sound abstract at first, but it has deeply practical consequences. Because when we really understand that everything is changing, our thoughts, our emotions, our relationships, even our bodies, it opens up space inside, space for awareness, space for release, space to live fully without clinging. And that's where mindfulness comes in. Mindfulness isn't just a trendy wellness practice. It's a way of being deeply present with reality as it is, without running, without resisting. It helps us witness, moment by moment, how things arise and pass away. Each breath, each feeling, each thought, born and gone, like waves rising and dissolving into the ocean of consciousness. This is what the Buddha taught, not as a theory, but as something we can see for ourselves. That's why he urged us not to get lost in metaphysical speculation. He didn't ask us to solve the mystery of the universe before we start living wisely. He simply pointed to what actually helps us end suffering. There's a beautiful story in the Malunkyaputta Sutta. A monk comes to the Buddha with a list of questions. Is the universe eternal? Is it infinite? Does the self survive after death? The Buddha gently replies, imagine someone shot with a poisoned arrow. Would you stop to ask who made the arrow, what kind of wood it was, and which direction it came from? Or would you focus on removing the poison right now? That's the heart of Buddhist practice. It's not about figuring out everything. It's about freeing the heart. By living ethically, sila, training the mind in stillness, samahi, and developing clear understanding, panya, we don't just believe the teachings, we become the teaching. We see impermanence, we let go. We touch peace, not later, but now. So maybe the real question isn't, what is reality made of? But rather, what can I see clearly right now that helps me suffer less, love more, and live more freely? When most people hear the word rebirth, they imagine a next life, a new body, a different name, a chance to become someone else, maybe better, maybe luckier. But in Buddhism, rebirth isn't about becoming someone new. It's about seeing who we are right now and understanding that this very moment is already a continuation. You don't have to wait until death to be reborn, because rebirth is already happening, moment by moment, through every choice we make, each thought, each word, each action. They're not just things we do and forget, they're seeds, and each one leads into the next chapter of our mind, our life, our future. So the real purpose of understanding rebirth isn't to create fear. It's not about judging what might happen after this body ends. It's about living with awareness now. It's about taking responsibility, not out of guilt, but out of love. For yourself, for others, for this one precious stream of consciousness that you are shaping every single day. Imagine this. You're standing in a river. You can't stop the flow, but you can decide how you step, how you move with the current, how you relate to the movement itself. That's the path. Not escape, not denial, but clarity. In Buddhism, freedom isn't about getting out of rebirth. It's about seeing deeply into it until you're no longer fooled by the illusion of a fixed self, until you stop clinging, until you live from wisdom instead of fear. Because when you see the nature of rebirth clearly, something powerful shifts. You stop asking, what will I become? And start asking, what am I becoming right now? And from there, everything becomes practice. Everything becomes path. Even brushing your teeth, even how you speak to someone who's struggling, even how you breathe when you feel overwhelmed. You realize this moment is not small. This moment is birth. So maybe rebirth isn't about the next life. Maybe it's about this one, this breath, this step, this heart. And maybe the most beautiful truth is this: you don't need to become someone else. You just need to awaken to who you've always been, beneath the noise, beyond the fear, right here, right now, alive, aware, free.